Welcome to the League of Women Voters Tacoma-Pierce County Primary Candidate Forum for Pierce County Auditor. I am Lydia Zapeta, the moderator, and on behalf of the League of Women Voters Tacoma-Pierce County and our community sponsors, I welcome the candidates and audience to this community candidate forum. The League of Women Voters Tacoma-Pierce County acknowledges that we gather on the ancestral lands of the Coast Salish peoples, surrounded by their traditional waters in the shadow of Mount Tahoma. We actively seek inclusive and respectful partnerships that honor Indigenous cultures, histories, identities, and current realities. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization whose mission for the past 100 years has been to empower informed and active participation of citizens in government. Candidate forums are one of the many ways that we do this. Anyone 16 years or older can be a member of the League of Women Voters. For more information on membership, go to our website, lwvtpc.org. That's lwvtpc.org. The candidates in ballot order for Pierce County Auditor are Daryl McCarty, Damon Townsend, and Linda Farmer. This year's primary election is August 2nd. If you've not registered or have moved, you may register or change your address online at votewa.gov. That's votewa.gov. by July 25th. You should have received your ballot if you're a registered voter and your address is correct. Your ballot must be postmarked or placed in a ballot drop box by 8 p.m. August 2nd. Questions have been prepared by members of the League of Women Voters of Tacoma-Pierce County and our co-sponsors. We invite audience questions via text to 253-861-6824. That's 253-861-6824. Text your questions to this number, and they must be directed to all candidates, and they may be reworded or consolidated. Our timekeeper today is Terry Baker. She will hold up cards to the candidates to let them know when they have 60 seconds remaining, 30 seconds, 15 seconds, and when it's time to stop. Candidates, when you see the stop card, you may finish a short sentence. Candidates, please stay on gallery view so that you can see me and the timer. Please do not talk unless it's your turn, and please mute yourself when it's not your turn to speak. The audience is on mute and cannot use the chat function. A reminder that civility is expected. I ask each of you to confirm that you agree to our ground rules, which among other things include addressing the issues and not making personal comments or attacks. Please confirm by giving me the thumbs up. Thank you. The order of the opening 2-minute statements is in ballot order. Unfortunately, it appears that Daryl McCarty has not shown up. So we will start with Damon Townsend. 2 minutes for your opening statement, please.
Well, hello. Thank you for having me here. I'm proud to be here. This is my first time running for a political office, so I'm really excited. I'm running to be your next Pierce County Auditor. I've got a lot of experience in elections administration. I used to be your elections supervisor for 5 years in Pierce County, and for the last 2 years, I've been an independent elections consultant, where I've consulted for other counties around the state. I've acted as an interim manager for 2 counties in our state, and I acted as a trainer for the Secretary of State's office on the voter registration program, which I helped build when I was working there at Pierce County. I have a long history in elections, and I also have another history in the telecommunications industry. I was a data systems technician and an operations manager for what was called Michelle Telephone at the time, then changed into Rainier Connect, and then I went to work for what was called PTI, then turned into CenturyLink, and through all sorts of attrition, with different phone companies. That business was not a business that a lot of people are going to stay in. Not a lot of folks are using landlines anymore. So I really enjoyed moving into the elections arena. I've always been an elections person who really has been interested in elections. One of my earliest memories as a kid is going with my dad into a polling place, the old lever machine polls where you flip the levers down and pulled the lever and the curtain closed behind you. And that was really exciting. And it was always a long memory to me. I've made it my goal to try to encourage people to vote, to participate, to have their voices heard. And I want people to have comfort that their elections are secure, safe, transparent, and accessible. The important thing that we do is, we have a wonderful vote by mail central count system here in Washington State that's recognized nationwide as one of the best. And I'm proud that I'm an acknowledged elections expert by many in the field, including other county auditors, and past county auditor Kathy Pearsall-Stipek has recognized me as the best candidate for this race. So I appreciate your time, and I'm looking forward to the questions, and I'm ready to go. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda Farmer, your 2-minute statement, please.
Hi, thanks for having me. The last time I participated in a league candidate forum was 2019 when I ran my city council race, so it's really good to be back. I am the Chief Communications Officer for the Washington State Department of Enterprise Services. I also serve on the Lakewood City Council. I'm running to continue the Auditor's Office's exceptional standards of election integrity and to deliver government services efficiently. Ensuring fair, accurate, and trustworthy elections now, today, is more important than ever. I bring 20 years of executive management experience in both the public and the private sectors to the role. I've served on the executive leadership teams of Pierce County Library System, the City of Federal Way, and the Puget Sound Action Team, just to name a few. I have a master's degree from Syracuse University and a bachelor's degree from the University of Washington. Go Huskies. I've lived in Pierce County over 30 years, but I've not just lived here, I've been an active member of the community. I just ended a 7-year term on the KNKX Community Advisory Board, and I've also served on the boards for Citizens for a Healthy Bay and City Club of Tacoma. Currently, I serve on the South Sound Housing Affordability Partners Executive Board. I'm the only candidate in the race with elected experience, all of it nonpartisan. In 2016, I was elected from District 6 to serve on the Pierce County Charter Review Commission, and I currently serve on the Lakewood City Council. I bring 3 unique things to the auditor's role: executive level leadership experience, nonpartisan elected experience, and a deep background in strategic communications. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you all. As I stated, Daryl McCarty had indicated had confirmed that he would be here, but we don't know where he is. So now we come to the questions. Each candidate gets up to 90 seconds to answer each question. For some questions, I may indicate you have only 60 seconds. Just a reminder that the audience can send questions to 253-861-6824. That's text your questions to 253-861-6824. Send a text message to that number and those questions will be asked of the candidates. So we'll rotate the order, and for question number 1, we'll start with Linda Farmer. So the first question is, many voters may not know what an auditor does. Please explain, what are the primary responsibilities of the Pierce County Auditor? Linda Farmer, please.
So I get this question all the time. They want to know what I'm going to be auditing. And they're often very surprised to find out that the auditor doesn't do any traditional auditing functions like that happens at the state auditor's office. And so I talk about how the auditor's office works on documents, recording, licensing, business licensing, marriage certificates, death certificates, passports, a conglomeration of government services, in addition to elections. Elections is a very big part of what they do. There we go.
Thank you. Damon Townsend, please.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I get this question a lot as well. I was just pumping gas at the Costco over in Tacoma the other day, and somebody asked me, "Oh, so you're going to do our property taxes?" I go, "No, that's the assessor." So oftentimes people get the two mixed up because they both start with A. But the term auditor is a misleading term. It's got a little bit of a legacy in our state. Is when our state constitution was formed and they formed all the codes for what the different county offices were, the auditor in many counties, and they still are, responsible for doing the financial services for the county. Now, Pierce County has grown over the years, and we've become what's called a charter county. As Linda was on the Charter Review Commission, we actually go through every once in a while and review our charter for any changes. And when we do that, we change the duties of those elected offices, like the auditor. So in the past, the auditor used to run elections, recording, licensing, and animal control. Animal control has been moved back to the sheriff's office, so we're still responsible for the elections, recording, and licensing services. Elections is the most visible part of the office that everybody sees, but it's also the smallest part. We only have 13 full-time staff that work in the elections office, and we have over 100 staff that work in the recording and licensing area. So that's the bigger bulk of the office, and it's the one that actually brings in the revenues and fees that fund a lot of county things and are very important for maintaining your deeds, your records, your liens, and making sure you can get your car tabs and your passports. But elections is what everybody wants to talk about, and that's what I spent my career in. And I'm ready to talk about elections questions and some of the other ones as well. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. So the next question, we'll start with Damon Townsend, and then we'll do Linda Farmer. And the question is, what does the auditor's department do well? And what do you think it could do better? And how could they do that? Damon Townsend.
Well, having worked there before, I like to think that we do everything well because it really is a great office. We have a great group of people there, a great staff. The elections office is full of half of the people I hired and trained to be there because they're the best of the best. The recording side has got people who've been there for many years. We got a lot of new people as well. They've got a wealth of experience and customer service that is second to none. The auditor's office is there to serve the people in a lot of ways. Every citizen of the county needs to utilize the services of the auditor's office at some time. You know, we hope that everybody who's a citizen of the county is registered to vote and participates in our voting. We try to make that very convenient. We mail ballots to everybody. We were instrumental in bringing about prepaid postage. We've deployed over 47 drop boxes around the counties, and we're proud that no one lives more than 95% of people live no further than 2 miles away from a drop box, which is a lot more convenient than our old polling places were. Also, during the COVID pandemic, they utilized some of the funds that were made available to implement some really good things there at the auditor's office and the recording and licensing side, where people can actually put appointment in, so they don't have to come into the office and hope that they can get in before their lunch break's over, or before they have to go hit the road and get back home. So we've already done a lot of great things there, and there's a lot more great things that we can do. We need to continue to put our records online so people can look at records that are older, so that they don't have to come in and pull those in person. And then we can continue to enhance election security and election accessibility and election transparency for all those folks as well. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Linda Farmer, what does the auditor's department do well, and what do you think it could do better, and how could it do that?
So the current auditor, Julie Anderson, who's turned out, has spent 12 years perfecting the office. As Damon mentioned, they've done a lot of wonderful things with modernizing their services. They've put almost every service that can go online is online. COVID, as difficult and terrible as it has been, did force some additional efficiencies in their service delivery. And so they've done a really good job of getting people in and out of their lobby when you actually do have to come into the lobby to take care of something because it requires an in-person interaction. They've done a fantastic job applying lean principles and bringing in consultants when necessary, and really doing the government service delivery efficiently thing well. What I'd like to see them do a little bit differently, given the state of the society where misinformation is rampant and we have low voter turnout in off-year elections, I'd like to see them beef up their outreach, communication, civic education, engagement. This is something that is, it's bigger than just the auditor's office, but they're not staffed or resourced to take that on for Pierce County. And so I'm very interested in exploring what we can do to really get out there in the community and have people exercise their right to vote.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start with Linda Farmer. Voter registration in Pierce County is around 85% of eligible voters, from what I could tell. Yet voter turnout of registered voters varies greatly by age, income, and other demographics, and also whether, depending on what election year it is, if it's an off year or presidential year. How would you propose increasing voter turnout in Pierce County, especially for young people and other communities that have especially low voter turnout? Linda Farmer, please.
My gosh, I love this. Oh, hang on. I got a note on the screen, sorry. I love this question. As a lifelong communications professional faced with a big, meaty public problem, I'm all anxious to start working on this. And it starts with research, but there are a couple of things we can move to right away. I was just looking up the voter registration statistics from the state has them from back to 1952 when it was about 91% of folks who are eligible were registered to vote, and it's gone down steadily since then. And so it's really important to remove barriers, to boost trust, and to bring it home with solid communications. And so if you can remove barriers by making sure that people can understand their ballot in the language that they're most comfortable with, you can boost trust by testing your systems and making sure that you're doing things properly, and then you communicate that you're doing those things, because you could be running the cleanest, sharpest shop in the world, but if nobody knows it, it's not going to help you. And then bring it home with solid communications and outreach, really, particularly with the younger communities and the marginalized communities, finding out how they want to receive that information and what the best practices are. It really starts with research. There isn't a one-size-fits-all answer for that question, unfortunately.
Thank you. I just received a text message that Daryl McCarty is watching. He claims he does not get the participant link, and that could someone please send it to him? Allison, do you think you could do that? Allison, could you please respond?
Yes, I will work on that.
Okay, thank you very much. Hopefully we can get him to join at some point. Sorry about the interruption. Damon Townsend, how would you propose increasing voter turnout in Pierce County, especially for young people and other communities that have very low voter turnout?
Yeah, it's that's always been a challenge here in Pierce County. You know, every time we would do election night, we would look and we'd really quick, we'd see how all the other counties were doing to see how we stacked up, and we would always be one of the lower ends. It's always embarrassing that counties like Island County and San Juan County will get up into 80 and 90% on their voter turnout. But part of that is a function of locality and size. I mean, our county is huge. It's huge geographically. It's huge with diversity, both with rural and cities. We have about as many registered voters who are in unincorporated Pierce County as well as our in incorporated cities. And part of the other thing is a function of voter turnout is always a function of what's on the ballot. One of the things is we have, as a society, moved away from realizing how important our local offices are, and we focus too much on national offices. And part of that problem is, that drives the low voter turnout in those off-year elections, like they call them. They shouldn't be off-year elections. They should be regular year elections. One of the things that I did as the election supervisor is we had a lot of outreach. We actually did a awesome program in partnership with the health department, where we had high schools participate in an actual election to decide how they were going to spend grant money that was given to them by the health department. That helps them get more civically engaged. The other thing that we do, as we used to do in the past, is we used to host candidate workshops to help new candidates who wanted to run for office navigate some of the complexities of filing and some of the rules and some of the different regulations involved in office, because sadly, some of our offices don't get anybody filing for them at all.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start with Damon Townsend. What procedures does the Elections Division use to protect ballot and election integrity and chain of custody? And what procedures might you change, if any, to increase the integrity of our elections? Damon Townsend.
Well, I'm super proud of the work I did there as the election supervisor. I mean, I brought some of the operations experience I had at the telecommunications company to the election center. You can ask anybody there and they'll say, well, Damon used to say, when I was at the phone company, we did it this way. So some of the things that we did do is we implemented a great program where we have our ballot drop box pickup teams use a smartphone that tracks them with GPS, that also has a form on it that's much like the Amazon people use when they deliver your package. So they have to take a picture of the seal seals that are on those boxes. They take a picture of the box that they emptied out. They take a picture of the new seal that they put on, and that's all visible back at the election center so they can confirm that those seals weren't tampered with and nobody was on there. In the internal office, we implemented what we call the ballot log tracker system, the BLT for fun. And what it does is it digitized an old analog system we had that used triplicate paper forms that really was inefficient, but very, well, it was inefficient functionally, but it was efficient structurally. And so we at the office digitized that, and we won another award for that as well. So at any point, we can tell you where a ballot is, where a tray of ballots is, what status they are anywhere in the election center. I'm proud of being the person who brought a lot of that to the election center. And then also in my consulting career that I've done since I left Pierce County, I brought that same procedures and expertise to other counties around the state as their acting manager and as a consultant and trainer for them. So we have great procedures in Pierce County. To enhance them a few more, I'd like to add a few more cameras. I'd like to have a few more videos. I'd like to have a few more observers as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda Farmer.
So Damon's worked in the elections office. I haven't. And so here's what I know. I know that in April, the auditor's office won a national award from the U.S. Elections Assistance Commission on its Dropbox chain of custody program. I am not sure many other people know that. We're a national leader for the Dropbox chain of custody. And I've been through all the pieces of the system, the smartphone, the tracking, the Dropboxes themselves. They're built like absolute tanks. And it would be very difficult for anyone to do anything crazy. And so I have every confidence in the security of our current system. Does that mean that it shouldn't be updated, constantly looked at and tested for new vulnerabilities? Absolutely not. It should we should always be looking for new things. Technology is changing all of the time. What would I change? I would change what people know about the Dropbox system. A lot of folks don't even know that they have Dropboxes near their home or within the 2 miles. And so do we need more Dropboxes? Let's talk about that. Let's talk budget. Let's look at that. Thanks.
Thanks. And the next question, we'll start with Linda Farmer. And the question is, with the integrity of elections under attack, what would you do to safeguard the right of Pierce County citizens to vote? Linda Farmer.
We have a fairly strong register to vote system. We need to increase the amount of folks who are actually registering. We need to, honestly, a bigger problem is getting the folks who are registered to vote to actually exercise their right to vote. So safeguarding the system, we have an amazingly secure mail-in system. We have almost 15 years experience with our mail-in system, and we're constantly winning awards. The one in April wasn't the only one. They've also won one for their batch tracking system and for some other things. And so continuing to look at security measures such as when they replaced the election center in this biennium, looking at what new technology safeguards can be put in. The word is escaping me, but making sure that integrated, that the building is integrated with the parking lot, which is integrated with the flow of folks coming in to drop off their ballots if they're coming into the annex to the election center to drop off their ballot on election night. And so there are a number of things to look at the physical security of the buildings and of the election workers.
Thank you. I know. Welcome, Daryl McCarty. I'm glad that you finally made it.
Finally, I've been through the whole thing.
Okay, good. Anyway, so the question that we have on the table that we'd like you to answer is, with the integrity of the elections under attack, what would you do to safeguard the right of Pierce County citizens to vote? 90 seconds, please.
First thing is you safeguard the right to vote by making sure that the people who show up, get a ballot, and then vote it, And the piece of paper, that thing called a ballot, is protected. That means it goes in the box. That means we know who it belongs to and that it's counted. But you also have to make sure that we've watched it to make sure that there are eyes on it all the time, eyes on the box, and that in the counting rooms, that there are people in there also watching over everybody's shoulder to make sure we're doing and processing things so that everybody can see at all times what's going on. No mistakes.
Thank you. Damon Townsend.
Yeah, so the question was, what are we going to do to safeguard the individual's right to vote? Well, it's an important thing in America that we do believe that everybody who's over the age of 18 and a legal citizen of the United States should have the right to exercise their franchise. That's important, and we need to protect that. You protect that by making it easy for them to use that service. So make it easy for them to register to vote. Right now, we have very easy ways for people to register to vote. They can register when they update their driver's license. They can register via a paper form. They can register online. We were leaders in that here in Washington State. There's still some states in the union where you can't register to vote online. That's ridiculous to me. So we got to make it convenient and easy for people. Now, we already make it convenient and easy for them to register to vote, along with great safeguards to make sure that they're not double registered or they're not registering in fake people or anything like that. But the next step is, once you're registered, you need to be able to participate. And so we need to make it easy and accessible for people to participate. We've already done that. We mail the ballot to your house. That ensures that you don't have to go to a polling place where somebody can intimidate you and scare you. It's really hard for somebody who wants to intimidate a voter to go to everybody's house to intimidate them. So that diversity of delivery of our ballots actually protects the voter's safety. That's good. The next thing is they need to be able to return that ballot safely, securely, and comfortably. And so we've offered them ways to return their ballots via drop boxes that our staff picks up if they want to utilize that. We also open up our vote center every election for those who still want to have that type of polling place experience. They can come to our vote center, vote, and drop the ballot off right there, or they can mail it back for free.
Thank you. Our next question will start with Dale McCarty. And I'll just ask you that when you're finished, please mute yourself because you're unmuted right now. What is your stance on the current election schedule for Washington State? Should we consider moving the primary or eliminating it via ranked voting? Should we eliminate special elections by consolidating them with the general election? Please give your stance. Daryl McCarty, please.
Okay, you can hear me? Right. Okay, stance. We in Pierce County rejected ranked choice voting after having gone through it for a couple of years, remember. And we came back after operating it for a couple of years. In fact, I went to schools along with the auditor and I as the deputy auditor, and we told people how to do it, how to use it, how to do these things. And then after it changed, after they had one election under their belt and a half, we changed it. The election schedule is partly convenience and partly required. The requirement part of it is that we have military ballots that must drop 15 days prior to when the regular ballot drops, which is that gives everybody enough time to come back and correct or then update what is on the primary to get it into the general. That's the only way we can do it. And we've had some one vote elections in this place, and we had to have every minute of extra time between primary and general.
Thank you. Damon Townsend, what's your stance on the current election schedule for Washington?
Yeah, well, I am a big fan of our current election schedule and cadence, and there's a reason for it. We have regularly scheduled elections once a quarter. That's unique in the United States. There's not a lot of states in the union that do that. Yeah, you can go to some states in the back east, they'll only have elections every other year, and they're handled by people who work in the clerk's office, who dust off an old manual and start processing the ballots. That scares the heck out of me. I like having a regular cadence once a quarter of elections where we can have professional staff that are trained up, do the procedures on a regular basis, even on a smaller scale for our spring elections and even in our primaries. Sometimes if we don't have any partisan races or multiple candidates, we might not even have a primary, or we'll have a small one. But that cadence is important, not just for my people in Pierce County, but also for the smaller counties, because some of the smaller counties in this state, if they don't have that regular cadence of elections, they can't justify a budget for a full-time election staff. They wind up having to double dip. I'm friends with the Ferry County elections manager, and she's the only employee there. And so, were they not to have a regularly scheduled elections, it would probably be a licensing tech that had a / elections specialist on it. I like the fact that we have professional, well-trained, and state certified staff that work those elections on a regular basis. And I'm not a fan of eliminating elections, because I don't think you increase participation by cutting them down. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda Farmer, what is your stance on the election schedule?
So I've consistently been saying that I'm dismayed that we have our primary elections in the middle of summer when people are busy and distracted, and on a day like today, maybe they're too hot or what have you. I know that National Night Out is on election day, and so this year, and so I really would like to see it at another time, moved up perhaps, but as it has been pointed out, is the cadence it's connected, it's a cycle. So I would need to look at that, and so that is one thing that does dismay me. When it comes to special elections, having worked in government where I've had to deal with special elections and also volunteered on school election campaigns, they're incredibly expensive when you have fewer things on the ballot. And so it's draining resources from these underfunded public institutions to run a necessary levy election, utility election, that sort of thing. So I would be intrigued by the idea of combining them, but as long as you didn't have too many things on the ballot, it's just crazy if you get too many things. I know people who have thrown away their ballots because there was just too much and it was overwhelming. So that we'd have to look at that.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start with Damon Townsend. More than 1 in 7 residents of Pierce County speak a language other than English at home. If elected, how would you engage and work alongside voters that speak languages other than English? Damon Townsend.
Well, what's great is we did that already. We had great outreach with all the different community groups. One of the most heartening thing I ever saw was a couple years ago, there was a young fellow from the Cambodian community who was really encouraging all of his fellow Cambodians to really participate, because a lot of them were not. And so he was coming down on a regular basis, getting voter registration cards, asking us if we had any other information, anything like that. And we implemented at the auditor's office an outreach for different language campaigns. We produce some balloting information, voter registration information in multiple languages. They're available for everybody to see, even though we're not required to. So Pierce County, there are counties in this state that are required by the Department of Justice to produce everything in different languages. We're not one of them, and we do it as a courtesy so that we can make everybody participate, allow everybody to participate who wants to. Another thing that we have available right there at the elections office is we had an awesome translator line that if anybody came in and we didn't even know what language they were speaking, this line would get them to an operator who could then refer them to the correct language interpreter so we could work with them over the phone. And the amazing thing with technology now is we have options that we never had before, where we could have a virtual person on the phone. We could have somebody on the screen using American Sign Language to help somebody out. These are all things that are great and amazing that we've enhanced with technology. And hopefully moving forward, we can make sure that everybody who wants to participate, who's legally allowed to, does. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda Farmer, how would you engage and work alongside people who speak languages other than English?
To piggyback on what Damon was saying, the county has done an excellent job when it comes to low English proficiency, which is something that the state requires that governments do. And so this is something that I've been dealing with at my job at Washington State and previous jobs that I've held. And so the county auditor did take it upon herself to make sure that the top languages spoken in Pierce County were handled on the election side. But she also did that on the other side of the house with documents and recording. And so if you walk into the lobby and you're greeted by the greeter and you don't speak English or don't speak it well, they can help get you to somebody who can help speak that language and get your document recorded, get your passport issued. And so they can do that on for all of the services that they offer. And this is something that should be looked at and evaluated every year. Our population changes and grows and evolves, and we should make sure that we're still offering this the right languages and that we're evaluating and measuring all of those services.
Thank you. Daryl McCarty. You're muted.
Okay, there we go. One of the things we did before, and it is exactly what they just said. We actually, we were
We can't hear you.
Are you, I can hear you. Hello?
Go ahead.
Okay. We contracted with a company that did about 20 languages. And not only did you didn't have to come in to the office to get it done, whether elections or recording and licensing or animal control at the time, they could come in and they would do things like, okay, let me read you the voter's pamphlet for the question you have. And then they would translate into another language. But the important thing is it was not only the availability of another language, but another dialect of another language we were able to use, which is very important if you come from Canton versus Beijing, for example. So those kinds of things we did, and outreach for everybody who has questions. And then they would offer the skill of going through and helping you mark the ballot. I have a little issue with that one, but at least the people understood, here's the voter's pamphlet, and here's what Jones looks like on a vote, for example, on a ballot, and then make it work.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start with Linda Farmer. What experience do you have working with marginalized communities to reduce barriers they may face? Low income people, disabilities, minorities, other marginalized communities. And Daryl McCarty, could you please mute yourself? Thank you. So Linda Farmer, what experiences do you have working with marginalized communities?
I will reflect on my experience as a Lakewood City Council member and working with the Clover Park School District, one of the most diverse school districts in the Puget Sound region. And I worked with them to develop their first equity statement. And we had a very large, robust group of marginalized people from the community come and be a part of that process. And so we were able to listen, to really listen, and to find out what the issues were and how we could best put together a statement of equity for the school district so that they could do what they needed to do to get the kids the education that they need to get. And so always making sure that I am participating in public forums and working with marginalized communities for whatever issue that they have. And lately it's been equity related.
Thank you. Daryl McCarty, what experience do you have working with marginalized communities to help them lower the barriers that they face?
Well, actually, a couple. One is in the military, when people are shooting at you, it's really important that everybody understand what's going on. And working with people on things like not just the training on stuff, but working with listening to people. Believe it or not, in the military, I would suggest to you that the most marginalized community are 18-year-olds, because everybody has all this experience, they think, and nobody's listening to that 18-year-old who's going to be in the same place you are. The other thing is, ever since I retired, my wife and I are full-time care providers for a quadriplegic. So everything we do, the time we take, the places we go, all must be ADA, but ADA for other people as well, because they're part of a sports program that got him out of a power chair into a regular bicycle-based chair, for lack of a better word. And we do it all the time, 24/7, to make sure he has access to everything, including the fact that he signed his own name to the ballot not 2 days ago.
Thank you. Damon Townsend.
Yeah, well, part of the issue with marginalized communities is the fact that they've been marginalized for so long, we might not be aware that they have some special needs that we need to address. So one of the most important things as an office is we need to be open and welcoming to anybody. And if somebody asks us for some help, so like I brought up the example of the fella from the Cambodian community who was coming down, because he told us that his community was hesitant and didn't know how to register to vote and weren't sure if they were even allowed to participate in the process, because they came from a country where if they did participate in the process and they went the wrong way, they would have been executed for that. And so there was a lot of hesitation and fear that some of us weren't aware of. And so we have to have an open door to anybody who comes in and says, we would like some help, we need some help, we want to know what we can do to make better include our groups into the greater American experience, which is really important. Daryl brought up, the marginalized communities of the folks with disabilities. We had a big outreach for disability communities at Pierce County elections. We partnered with TACID. We made sure that we had a vote center. We employed one of our extra hire election help folks was a person who was legally blind, who could help us with any blind voters who came in. One of the things we implemented in our hiring practices is we made sure that we included somebody of a diverse background on all interview panels, so that if we had people from different communities come in, they weren't seeing just a group of people who all look the same, because it's important that we have a very diverse county. Our county is bigger than the state of Rhode Island and has people from every country in it.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start with Daryl McCarty. We're focused on elections, but the auditor's office does so much more. What are your qualifications to run the rest of the department? Daryl McCarty. You're on mute.
Probably darn few places on this planet or in life that I haven't tried to provide leadership to. Whether it's overseas or at home, whether it's partisan or nonpartisan, whether any of these things. The objective is not necessarily to be the one who is marking off square one, but rather to be able to tell them, this is the direction we want to go. This is the definition of professionalism. This is the definition of how you receive people. And you don't necessarily receive people by them showing up at our office. You have to go to their offices too. But all these things is leadership, not management where you have to know every little thing. That's what you hire managers for. Leaders are what you put there to identify where the mountain is or the hill we have to climb, not necessarily which pencil to use in form number 73.
Thank you. Damon Townsend.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I started my leadership career as a coach at Bethel Rec. I coached volleyball and baseball, 4th grade through 6th grade girls at Kapowson Elementary, and I was proud of the fact that we won the Bethel Rec championship. So that's one score on my side. The next thing I did is when I worked in the telecommunications industry, I was a data systems technician and a troubleshooter. And I got hurt really bad, and I went back and I changed my degree, and I got my degree in accounting and business administration, and then I got an MBA, and I was promoted to management, where I was created as the operations manager for all of Central Washington, from Omak to Connell, where I was responsible for administering and running the operations of a large group of field technicians in a very diverse area, separated by lots of geography and constraints. And so I have experience leading people. I have experience organizing a big office. And then when I started at Pierce County, I started as the ballot tabulation and ballot design specialist. My job was to design your ballots and pre-test the equipment. But our election supervisor was plucked up by King County as to be the deputy elections administrator in King County. And with 9 months experience on the job, I was chosen by Julie Anderson to be the election supervisor, because they know that I am a change leader. I'm a person who can manage a group of people. I led the group that did the Kaizen event, where we analyzed our election procedures and implemented all the efficiencies, which I'm proud of. And we're going to do the same thing in the recording and licensing office, because I've done it before. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Linda Farmer.
So this is an executive level office, and as has been mentioned, the county auditor doesn't need to know the ins and outs of absolutely every job because the auditor is not performing the ins and outs of every job. The county auditor's job is to set the priorities, to set the budget, and to ensure that the leadership team is getting what it needs to get the job done. That's one of the things. I have 20 years of executive management experience, and I tell my teams every single time, I am here to make sure that you have what you need to get your job done. Do you have the right tools? Do you have the right empowerment? Are you cleared? Are there barriers in your way? I am here to remove your barriers so that you can get the job done. Do we have a strategic plan? Do we know where we're going? That's what the county auditor does. I have 20 years of experience. I'm going to sound really old. I have a lot of experience in pulling together all of those things. And it's critically important to then hire the right people to run those business lines, and to make sure that you're setting the right goals, and that you're measuring your success, and plan, check, do. And then if you need more resources, you go in front of the county council and you pull that together based on your relationships and your ability to run a large office.
Thank you. So we've come to a final question, and we will start with Damon Townsend. Please discuss your commitment to the auditor's office being nonpartisan. Damon Townsend.
Yeah, I am proud that I am the candidate in this race that has reached out both to Democrats, Republicans, the Libertarian Party, the Green Party, every civic group that I can. And I've been in the rooms with the Republicans asking me questions about election integrity. I've been in the room with the Democrats asking me about my outlook on many things that are unrelated to this office. This is an administrative office. This office's job is to make sure that we're serving the people of Pierce County in the most effective, efficient, and equitable way possible. It is not a partisan race. It is not something where hanging your entire qualifications on your party affiliation is going to be any value to administering this office. I come here with experience and qualifications. If you look at any county auditor that's elected around this state, nearly every single one has come from the elections division of the auditor's office, save a few who came from the recording division, which is awesome, because when we have election conferences and auditor conferences, we have a few expertises in that area as well. So my commitment to this being nonpartisan is I'm going to be the most efficient election administrator. I'm going to bring the most efficient services to recording and licensing without wearing any party hat. It's very important to me that the referee wears the striped jersey and not the jersey of one of the other teams. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Linda Farmer, what's your commitment to the auditor's office remaining nonpartisan?
As a current nonpartisan elected official, it's incredibly important to me to keep the office nonpartisan. And all my experience, I'm the only candidate in the race with any elected experience, and both of my races have been nonpartisan. And so in order to be nonpartisan, you need to be able to get along with people of all different beliefs and all different stripes. And so you need to be able to build relationships and to pull people together to a common purpose. And that's really what I see nonpartisan is at. It's elections are a time of a little bit of hype and a lot of craziness, but in the day-to-day, there's a lot of let's just get out there and get the work done and meet people where they're at. And that's incredibly important that people understand that this is a nonpartisan office, which means that you're here to get the job done. It's not just an administrative job. If it were just an administrative job, then it wouldn't have such consequence. You need somebody in this position who understands how to go in front of the legislature and ask for changes and budget and get things done at that highest elected level.
Thank you. Daryl McCarty.
Okay. 30 years in the Air Force, by law and by predilection, is 100% nonpartisan. Doesn't matter who you are underneath. The president is the president, and yes, sir, is the answer. There is no partisanship. The same thing is true with, believe it or not, our boards and commissions in this county. And I did, like Damon, I started off a little bit and did high school soccer varsity. That was okay. But the bottom line here is it's not partisan in this particular case anyway, because there's really nothing in the office that is on anybody's platform. It's executing some functions that the law lays out. You execute them, you collect money, or you issue a license for FIDO, or you collect ballots. You don't care what's on the ballots, only care that the ballots are there and counted in straight arrow. There's no partisanship there. There is only executing a job and providing leadership for an office so that we can continue to serve the people of Pierce County.
Thank you. Now it's time for closing statements. I'm sorry I didn't get to all the questions that were submitted. Each candidate has up to 1 minute for their closing statement. We will change the order of the opening statements. So we'll start with Linda Farmer, then Daryl McCarty, then Damon Townsend. Linda Farmer, your closing 1 minute statement, please.
So we've talked about a lot of issues tonight, and none of them are going to be solved with a snap of the fingers. They're going to take time, careful planning, resources, and lots of resolve. My job as Pierce County Auditor is to help people access the services they're already paying for with their tax dollars. And this is something I've been doing exclusively for local government for 15 years. I'm the only candidate in the race with elected experience, all of it nonpartisan. And I'm running for the auditor's role because I have the unique public service it will take to succeed. I have executive level leadership experience, nonpartisan elected experience, and a deep background in strategic communications so we can remove barriers, boost trust, and bring it home with solid communications. I humbly ask for your vote. Thank you so much for having me tonight.
Thank you. Daryl McCarty, your 1 minute closing statement. You're on mute.
First, thank you very much for having me and for the confusion. I actually did see everything. Unlike some, I have also executive level experience, a lot more over a lot wider ranges, sometimes across nations and across continents, working with people at all levels in all countries in Europe or the Far East. So That kind of thing is what you bring to the table when you talk about providing a service to the county, the population of a county. And Linda's right, they're already paying for it. So you might as well do a good job doing it right for them the first time at the least cost. Vote for me.
Thank you. Damon Townsend.
Well, I want to thank the league and the co-sponsors of this forum. I really enjoy these forums. I love answering questions from folks because that's what the auditor's job is. The auditor's job is to be responsive to the people of the county. The auditor's job is to be a good steward of the people's money. The auditor's job is to be ready to answer questions with specific answers that are brought to them by the public. I'm the only candidate who's administered elections. The elections manager for the county just retired. That means we have a green elections manager, a green elections supervisor, and we don't need a green auditor. We need somebody who knows that when they sign off on the February special election 2 months after they're sworn in, that it's been done right. I'm the only candidate who's administered elections. I'm the only candidate who's a certified elections administrator. I was an operations manager for a staff similar to the size of the office. I've run the elections division of that office, and I have the support of the staff over in the recording and licensing office who knows that I, as their shop steward, will be a good representative for their needs and wants as employees. So thank you. I appreciate your vote as well.
Thank you all. In ballot order, the candidates for Pierce County Auditor are Daryl McCarty, Damon Townsend, and Linda Farmer. You all should have received your ballots by now. Be sure to vote early and no later than August 2nd. I'd like to thank the candidates, the timekeeper, Terry Baker, Tacoma-Pierce County League of Women Voters, and our community sponsors, the Affordable Housing Consortium, Asia Pacific Cultural Center, Grit City Co-op, Latinx Unidos of South Sound, the NAACP of Tacoma, the Sumner Waller Community Association, the Tacoma Urban League, Vibrant Schools, and the YWCA of Pierce County. You can see other League of Women Voter candidate forums at lwvtpc.org. That's lwvtpc.org. Read your voter's pamphlet and look at vote411.org, where you can find answers to questions posed to all candidates running for office. Read the candidates' websites and do everything that you can to be an educated voter. And don't forget to vote August 2nd. Thank you all for being here and have a great evening. Good night, everyone.